What's going on, everybody? LK here, back at it again with another video, and today I'm going to do a little bit of a quick guide to reactions in like anime games. So people talk about reactions a lot in fighting games. There's a lot of like competing things and opinions about what is reactable, what is not reactable. Some people not have really taken studies, but they're like, oh well, you can react to this many milliseconds of delay, blah blah blah. So rather than going into all that stuff, because that will take a long time, instead, I'll just talk about the generally agreed upon consensus, at least in the anime fighting game scene. So what I'm talking about, you can apply immediately to like Dragon Ball, Guilty Gear, Blaze Blue, Uni, Melty, you name it. Like any game like that, you are covered. I know that Street Fighter players think they have like different ideas of what you can see, and 3D Fighter is a whole other thing, so I won't really get into that. So first I'm going to just talk numbers really quick, and then how this applies to like the different games, right? So generally the rule that we use is if it's 18 frames or faster, you cannot react. So I have Android 16 here because he has a 17 frame command grab. You cannot react to this. The game will show it as a different speed, but like sometimes, but if you just do it, 17 frames. You cannot react to this. I truly believe you cannot react to this. Anything faster than 18 frames, 18 or faster, you can't. 19 is like borderline, and this is one of the issues with Dragon Rush. So Dragon Rush, let me get the 19 frame one. Dragon Rush has a lot of weird issues of like variable frames and stuff like that. Like you can make Dragon Rush 19 frames sometimes. There it is. That's 19 frame Dragon Rush. You can make Dragon Rush 19 frames. You can also make it like 26. You can make it very big. There's all sorts of weird things that you could do with it, which goes into a whole other thing on why it's hard to defend Dragon Rush. But as far as like the actual speed, it's pretty much like borderline. Like you get your 19 is like, but 20, 21, if you're really focusing, you can do it. But it could be hard to defend other things. Okay? Once you get to around 23 frame moves, that's what mix-ups kind of rare. So usually it goes like 18 unreactable, right? Then usually a game will have like a couple of 19 frame moves, a couple of 20 frame moves. Those are hard to defend. Then they usually jump to like 22 to 24 frame range. Once you get to around 24 frames, you can reliably defend the move. So this is 24 frames. Universal overhead is generally, when it's done raw, it will not hit somebody. Usually the reason why people get hit by universal overhead in Dragon Ball is a bunch of reasons. One could be this type of setup, right? So, whoops. Here's one example, right? So that's the 19 frame Dragon Rush. So now in this recording, okay. So depending on one reason why people get hit by this overhead is because of how they tech Dragon Rush, specifically. If they tech with like a crouching move, I'm teching a little late, but okay. If they tech with a crouching move, if they're not like actively looking or actively adding some type of option select guard in there, it's highly likely they'll get hit by this overhead. It's highly likely they will. There are also cases where you can. Oh, I didn't do it right. This one's a little harder to do. There's also cases where they are looking for specific moves to guard cancel, so the Dragon Rush would get them, or the overhead would get them, right there. I'd have to add more recordings for that, of course. And the last reason why also is they could be holding tag. Just sitting here waiting and holding tag. So some people, when they're holding tag, they're literally just waiting to see their tag come out. Those are the main reasons. Generally, you shouldn't really get hit by the universal overhead if you're defending properly. This one kind of goes out to the net players out there, because this overhead will hit online a lot, but offline it will not hit so much. Like, you have to use the overhead pretty well to actually get people. Excuse me. So yeah, once you get to 24 frames or slower, you go to pretty much you can react range. So then from there it goes, so how do I use this move to actually hit people? So for an example here would be, actually let's make it like this. But this move is not very quick, right? But the thing with 16 is, if you try to simply jump the move, oh, whoops, I did it too fast. There you go, that should get it. He'll grab you if you try to jump the move, so you'd have to either like delay more, you'd have to build some different way to defend rather than just waiting for the delay. So a lot of moves are like this. So even take Yamcha's cross-up wolf, right? So people still get like cross-up wolf like this, despite it being slower. Right, it's 29 now. Before I believe it was like 24 frames. So for example, this it's pretty fast, it's 23. So you can use the info from these like reactable moves to be like, since everything is kind of borderline reactable, you could use the info to like be like, oh, this person defends like this, right? So if someone say defends, let's say someone defends this. Oh, sorry. If someone's able to defend that, it's unlikely they will defend this, right? Because this is faster, but generally when they guard moves like this or moves like this, it means they're waiting for that specific move, right? They're waiting for that specific attack. That's why, like, say when people reflect the cross-up wolf, I'm like, oh, he was looking for it. Like, good guess, but it was a guess. Like, you were looking for just that. You were not trying to defend the whole spread of his options. This kind of brings us into another thing about like high lows, right? So one thing about high lows is like, I believe that overheads, these rising overheads are 10 frames. So one thing that kind of takes away from characters that have slower lows is that it's really hard to line up timing for overheads or lows. That's like, say, like your Trunks. Like, Trunks' low is like 12 frames. He can fuzzy, but like, from a block swing fuzzy, and Vegito is the same thing. Vegito's the same thing. Like, if they try to do one like this, like Bardock, you can definitely defend it because the high and low just don't hit at the same time, even though you can't react to either of them, because speed-wise you can't see it until after, so it's more about your knowledge about where the frames line up. So then last, I guess, I kind of want to talk about, I guess, how the games want you to think about reactions, I guess. So Dragon Ball, and I think Alioun actually put this the best way. Dragon Ball has a bunch of stuff that, like, of course, there's a bunch of good shit that you can't react to. Like, you can't react to that, or like this kind of thing, right? You can't react to it. But Dragon Ball also has a bunch of stuff that, like, you kind of can react to if you look for it, but if they do something else, then you're kind of cooked. So Dragon Rush is probably like the biggest one. It's like pretty straightforward. The speed is like just about like 19 to 21 variable startup. The return is high too, so the game is encouraging you to do it, and it looks kind of like a dash. So like, well, you see people do this a bunch of times and people defend. So here's an example. Oops. We've seen this a million times. We've seen this a million times at this point. It's like, can you actually do it? People say, I pressed the button. I pressed the button, but I pressed it late enough. In a match, this could be something very different. For people who tech with buttons, they are getting hit by that. I'm trying my best not to twitch. Got me. Alright? So Dragon Ball kind of plays around with your reactions a lot. Because everything's just borderline. A lot of stuff is just borderline reactable. Borderline. But you can't look for the whole spread of options, so it's like you have to make choices around what you're looking for, what are your opponent's tendencies, and that's kind of what makes the game interesting in that regard. As opposed to a game like Guilty Gear where, let's say in Dragon Ball, your general move, I'm going to make up a number, like this is 22 frame total, it actually is. So this is 22 frame total duration, right? So when you see this, you're like, oh, he did it, let me make a choice about what to do maybe. But Guilty Gear has moves that are sub 16 frame total sub 18 frame total duration. So that means you are not registering that a move is happening until after it's over. So you have to make choices in advance, because even if you have a response to like X move, you can barely react to it in the first place. So you have to just consider what the opponent could do first and then act assuming that the opponent is going to do something. And then BlazBlue would be the other extreme where, as long as you're playing on a console, generally everything is reactable in the first place. So you are kind of working on like your conditioning and your establishing threat and playing the throw game, especially if your characters that have like 50-50 high lows and stuff. Just like conditioning your opponent and like checking them slowly with the threat of things rather than just trying to hit them. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Of course, this was a very general kind of overview, just basic guidelines of like what's reactable, what's not. I know there's definitely more we could talk about as far as reactions, but hopefully when someone's like, I don't know if you can react to this, you can just be like, this is the general guideline people use, here we go. Okay? Like and subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.